Ragnar Lothbrok is one of the most famous names of the Viking Age, but also one of its most difficult figures to separate from legend. To later storytellers, Ragnar was the fearless sea king, the raider who crossed the North Sea, challenged kings, and became the father of some of the most feared Viking leaders in memory. His name survives in sagas, poems, medieval chronicles, and modern imagination. But the closer we look, the more complicated the story becomes. Ragnar may have been based on one historical man, or on several Viking leaders whose deeds were later woven into a single legendary figure. That uncertainty is part of what makes him so powerful. He stands on the border between history and myth. The stories describe Ragnar as a warrior of impossible courage. He fights monsters, wins kingdoms, sails against powerful rulers, and wears the strange, hairy trousers that give him the name Lothbrok. In these tales, he is not just a raider, he is a symbol of Viking ambition, danger, and restless movement across the seas. But when we move from saga to history, the picture becomes less certain. Frankish and Anglo-Saxon sources record major Viking attacks in the 9th century, including raids on England and the famous attack on Paris in 845, sometimes associated with a leader named Ragnar. Some historians have wondered whether this figure lies behind part of the Ragnar tradition. Others remain cautious, because the evidence does not allow a simple answer. What is clearer is the importance of the men later remembered as Ragnar's sons. Ivar the Boneless, Halfdan, Ubba, and other leaders connected with his legend are tied to the great heathen army, the massive Viking force that invaded England in the late 9th century. Whether they were truly Ragnar's sons in the literal sense, or whether the connection was shaped by later memory, their fame helped make Ragnar's name even larger. One of the most dramatic stories says that Ragnar was captured by King Ella of Northumbria and thrown into a pit of snakes. As he died, he supposedly spoke of how his sons would avenge him. That image is unforgettable. It turns Ragnar's death into the spark for a greater Viking storm. But this is exactly where we must be careful. The snake pit may be legend. The revenge story may be literary memory, shaped to explain the fury of later Viking attacks. Yet legends survive for a reason. They tell us how people wanted the past to feel, even when they do not preserve every fact exactly. For a documentary, that uncertainty should not be hidden. It should be the center of the story. Ragnar is important not because every tale about him can be proven, but because his legend gathers together the fears, hopes, and memories that surrounded the Viking expansion. He became the face of a wider age, ships appearing from the mist, kingdoms under pressure, warriors seeking wealth and fame, and families remembered through blood, revenge, and song. Ragnar matters because he became a vessel for Viking memory. Through him, later generations imagined the perfect sea king, bold, violent, clever, doomed, and impossible to forget. He may not have ruled in the way the sagas describe. He may not have performed every deed attached to his name. He may not have led every raid, defeated every enemy, or spoken every famous line later placed in his mouth. He may not even have been one man. But the legend of Ragnar Lothbrok reveals something real about the Viking Age. Its terror, its ambition, its sea-borne reach, and the way memory could turn a raider into something larger than life. So was Ragnar Lothbrok a real man, a legendary construction, or both? The honest answer is that he belongs to the space between them. History gives us fragments. Legend gives us fire. And somewhere between those fragments and that fire, the name Ragnar Lothbrok still endures.